comes. It's the divine grace of Holy Charanarvana Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jaya. Good place to be Ki Jaya. Namacharya Shabbai Sakur Ki Jaya. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jaya. Shama Veda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jaya. All glories to the son of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Govinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and because this is going to be a talk about Prahlad and Narasimha, means we're going to read from a particular canto. Which canto are we going to read from? Which canto is the pastimes of Prahlad and Narasimha? It's in the 7th canto. Most of the Srimad Bhagavatam comprises of the pastimes of Lord Krishna, yes. But Prabhupada, his first plan, when he was presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, was to present 30 volumes up to the 9th canto. I'm not sure if that included the 11th and 12th canto, and then another 30 volumes just for the 10th canto. Because Bhagavatam is predominantly about Krishna, Krishna's pastimes. But of all the other pastimes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Narasimha and Hiranyakashipu, that comprises the next largest pastimes in the Bhagavatam. A good part of the 7th canto, from chapter 2 all the way up to chapter, I don't remember off the top of my head, all the way up to chapter 10. So that's 9 chapters dedicated to the pastimes of Prahlad, Narasimha, and Hiranyakashipu. And then the next set of pastimes is the pastimes of Ajamil, which is in which canto? Just before the 7th canto, 6th canto. And the beginning of the 6th canto is a real relief, because the 5th canto, in the 5th canto, it describes the cosmology of the universe, and in the last chapter it describes the hellish planets. And not only does it describe the hellish planets, but it also points out who's eligible to go to the hellish planets. And after you read that, it's like you feel there's absolutely no hope. I'm definitely qualified for the hellish planets. Some of the things that today we don't even see to be a discrepancy. For instance, it says if someone eats without inviting someone else to eat, then they're destined to go to a hellish planet. Something, I mean, to us in this day and age, that seems completely inconceivable. So after you finish the 5th canto and the description of the hellish planets, it's like, okay, there's no hope for me. But then, the very next pastime is the pastime of Ajamil. And when you see what happened with Ajamil, it's like there's all hope for us. Because just because he practiced some devotional service in his early life, and then he became a debauchee, became very fallen, and then right at the end of his life, because Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita that even a little devotional service can save one from the most dangerous situation. And his situation was very dangerous indeed. But because of his previous devotional service, Krishna, who was situated in the heart, gave him the intelligence to name his son Narayan, right? And then right at the time of death, he was so, the Yamadutas came, okay, here's your ticket to the hellish planets. But then somehow or other he called out the name of Narayan, and he, the very next life he went back to Godhead. So, even Prabhupada, I was listening to one lecture, and Srila Prabhupada said that, what is the loss? Somebody comes, he comes for one day, and he does some devotional service, there's no loss. You should not feel discouraged if somebody comes, and then they don't stay, or they don't take to it full-heartedly. We don't become discouraged. Rather, we feel, there's so much benefit has been gained. This is how powerful devotional service is. So then after the 6th canto, of course, we come to the 7th canto. The first chapter describes how the Lord is equal to everyone. He's equal to everyone. So how is Krishna, how is God equal to everyone? People will say, well, a lot of people say, how can God be equal? So many people are suffering. Where's God? So many people, people are walking down a busy street in a major city in Canada, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're run down by a van. Well, where's God? Where's God? Or they're on their way to a hockey game. A bunch of 16, 17, 18-year-old boys. I was there. Not there, but I can relate to that. I played hockey, you take buses, go to different places, and then all of a sudden, it's all over. So, that's the nature of the world. It's Mrityaloka. It's a place of death. Almost sounds pessimistic, Oh, you're always talking about death. I'm not always talking about death, but someone who's a real philosopher, he keeps in mind that, death is coming. So what should I do? What's the solution? Just merely go along and try to ignore it, which everyone is practically doing, right? That was a question, Yudhisthira, what was the question? It says, what's the most amazing thing? What's the most amazing thing? The most amazing thing, Yudhisthira pointed out, is that despite the fact that all around you see death, and you see that your forefathers passed away, and yet you're going along thinking that it's not going to happen to you. That is pretty amazing. I'm guilty of that. So a real philosopher, he actually keeps that in mind. And as George Harrison, Dr. George Harrison said, from 17 to 57, it says it goes by like that. You turn around and the next thing you know, it's like you're 17 at 1 minute, you're a big, powerful, sought-after, famous, big musician, 17, and then 57, you turn around and you're 57. And then what to speak of when you hit 50, 67, 77, if you're lucky. But for one who's practicing Krishna consciousness, he's not afraid of death. He's not even afraid of old age. And nobody likes these things. Nobody likes these things. I was just listening to this nice kirtan that you were chanting, and I was starting to get a little bouncy, and I was starting to think, in my youth, during the kirtan, we would jump up in the air and do a dive and a roll on the ground, and dive into the air and do a somersault on the ground, and then dive in the air and do a somersault on the ground. Sometimes the kirtans were so rocky, but I can't do that now. But you can do it in your heart. My heart was diving and rolling during your kirtan. So the 7th canto talks about Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu. So the first chapter points out how Krishna is equal. He's equal to everyone. So if there's so much misfortune, then how is it that he's being equal? Sometimes we see a very criminal kind of person, and things seem to be going along no problem. So where's the justice there? And then we see a seemingly innocent, honest person, and they meet with such immediate misfortune. And they have some very interesting, sayings. Only the good die young. I mean, that's ridiculous, but somebody makes up that statement. Only the good die young. I know a lot of very not so good people that died young, and I know a lot of good people that didn't die young. So how? I'm going to ask you a question. How is Krishna? How is God equal to everyone? How is he equal to everyone? He seems to favor the devotees and punish the demons.
Well, you get whatever based on your karma, so karma's equal to everyone, I guess. That way, Krishna is equal to everyone.
Yeah, he's equal in the sense that he's equal, and that we do activities and we get the result for our activities. He equally gives his blessings to everyone. He equally gives the opportunity to everyone to take the Krishna consciousness, in the sense that he sends the pure devotee, and the pure devotee indiscriminately gives Krishna consciousness everywhere. But whether we take it or whether we don't, that's dependent on certain things. Depends on if we have some previous piety, we have some previous pious credits, then we can take to it, right? Someone who has some pious credits and he's a little bit inclined towards curiosity, or if he's looking for the absolute truth, or if he's in want, or if he's in distress, he can take to devotional service. And as you're pointing out, the law of karma, yes. Like the high court judge. Prabhupada uses the term high court judge, the high court magistrate. He's equal. He's equal both to one person he's punishing and the next person he is rewarding. And it's their own actions. But unless you bring in the law of karma and reincarnation, it doesn't work. And karma and reincarnation have to be there if there's any concept of God. Because how is it one person is born in a very fortunate situation, born in a family of God conscious, whether it's any particular faith, and he has the opportunity right from childhood to take to some kind of religious process, and someone else is born in a family of complete atheists and doesn't have any opportunity. It seems to be, if God is just and God is equal to everyone, then why is the playing field not equal? Why do we have a different playing field? Because the playing field is equal. The difficulty or the misunderstanding is that there's no previous life or next life. So Yudhisthira, he asks, not Yudhisthira. Anyway, he asks Shukadeva Goswami, Krishna asks Shukadeva Goswami, he says, so, how is it that if Krishna is equipoised, how is it that Shishupal, who was Krishna's enemy, avowed enemy, how is it that, he was able to, he was killed by Krishna? He was killed by Krishna. If Krishna is equal, he should be equal to his enemy and he should be equal to his friend, but Krishna killed him. So why is that? And then Shukadeva Goswami pointed out two things. First, he pointed out that despite the fact that Shishupal was killed by Krishna, the witnesses, including your grandfather, Yudhisthira was witness, and Yudhisthira never tells a lie, and he witnessed that Shishupal merged into the body of Krishna, so he got liberation. So even the demons of Krishna, when they're killed by Krishna, get liberation. And And then he begins the narration of Jaya and Vijay. And we all know the story. How the two gatekeepers, they were, they offended Vaishnava devotees before Kumaras. As a result, they had an opportunity, they had a choice. Krishna came and intervened. And they had a choice, take birth as demons, take birth as devotees. What is it? 7 and 3, I think it was. 7 and 3. You could take a birth as a devotee for 3 lives, you could take a vote as a demon for 3, 7 for a devotee, 3 for a demon. And then as a result, you can come back after that. Well, let's go as demons. Sounds kind of interesting. We all have that bad boy in us, right? We all like to demonstrate our bad boy mentality once in a while. Actually, that's not true, but so that's how the beginning of the pastimes of Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. And he points out that Shishupal and Dantravarka during Krishna's pastimes, they were Jaya and Vijay, and then they went through a demon relationship with Krishna. But previously, before that, they came as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyaksha, as Hiranyaksha, he was killed by Vraha, which really annoyed Hiranyakashipu. It really annoyed his brother, and therefore he became an avowed enemy of Vishnu. Hiranyakashipu, we have this concept of a demon not knowing anything, but Hiranyakashipu and even Ravana, they were very, very knowledgeable, spiritually speaking. After Hiranyaksha was killed, Hiranyakashipu took it upon himself to give some solace, some relief to his sister-in-law, Hiranyaksha's wife, and to his mother. Who was Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha's mother? Remember? There were 2 sisters. One began with a D and A, and one began with a D. Diti, yes. Diti and Aditi. Diti and Aditi. Actually, the demigods and the demons are actually brothers. Well, stepbrothers. Same father, different mother. So, he pacified them by giving them incredible knowledge. They're not the body, it's not the body. He gave a story about two birds, Kalinga birds. One bird was lamenting because the female bird had been killed by a hunter, and he was standing there just lamenting, and in the meantime, in his lamentation and inappropriate position, he was also killed by the same hunter. So with this example, it was pointed out that birth and death, one should learn to be equally opposed, steady in both. Krishna points out, one who is steady in both happiness and distress is eligible for liberation. So that is the first chapter. And then the second chapter is Hiranyakashipu as the king of the demons. And then how he begins to terrorize the universe. But he undergoes all the different austerities. He undergoes all the different austerities to gain power. To become immortal. Then once he becomes immortal, then he starts to, what he thinks is immortal. I don't need to describe the pastime because I know you all know it. Then when he becomes immortal, he terrorizes the universe. But Hiranyakashipu has a son named Prahlad, and Prahlad is a rebel. He doesn't listen to his father. He doesn't listen to his parents. Any parents have that problem with their children? Of course, his case was justified. But sometimes, but certainly Hiranyakashipu couldn't accept it. And we see it even in the West, especially when Krishna consciousness first started. The children were becoming devotees, and the parents were very upset with that. Actually, the same thing happened during the time of Lord Jesus. He was taking all the youths and turning them into his followers, into devotees, and the parents were actually alarmed. Prabhupada did the same thing. Narada Muni did the same thing. Narada Muni took all the 10,000 sons of Daksha and turned them into 7% completely dedicated, surrendered devotees to Krishna. And this really infuriated Daksha, but he kind of bit his tongue. But then he had another 5,000 sons. Narada Muni did the same thing, turned them all into devotees, which was in the best interest, which is the best thing to do. But Daksha could not understand that. In the same way, the best thing was what Prahlad was doing, but Hiranyakashipu couldn't comprehend or accept that. And in the same way, many devotees in the West, they were becoming followers of Srila Prabhupada, and the parents in mainstream society, they couldn't understand it. Even though when you hear Prahlad Maharaj, when he's instructing his fellow classmates and giving instruction, how this is really the right thing to do. This is really the most beneficial thing. So I'm going to read now one verse, very famous verse from the fifth chapter of the seventh canto, 2 verses 23 and 24. And this is the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is one of the Mahajans. Mahajan means great soul, spirit, teacher. Mahajana yena sapanta. Mahajana yena gatim sapancha. The one should follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans. Mahajans. Everybody's got their Mahajans. Right now the playoffs are taking place, and one of the Mahajans is Sidney Crosby, right? He's a Mahajan in hockey. And then you have politicians or Mahajans. According to what your perspective is, you can have your heroes, your Mahajans. But the real Mahajans know what the goal of life is, what the proper use of human life is, and how to apply it. Sambandhana, Avideya, and Parojana. Sambandhana is we're introduced to Krishna. We hear about the process of Krishna consciousness. We hear the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. We become a little convinced. And then there is Avideya. Avideya means now we have to practice. But one of the good things is that one of the main processes of Avideya is hearing. So when we're hearing the philosophy, we're hearing what we should do. That's also one of the processes. But then we actually have to act on it, because without acting on it, it's just there's no result. There's no result, no parojana. So here now Prahlad is giving the instruction. Sri Prahlad Uvacha. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam Iti Purusharpita Vishnu Bhaktas Chenava Lakshana Kriyita Bhagavat Yadha Tan Manye Vitam Uttamam. Who knows the Sanskrit of the 9 processes of bhakti? Anybody say them? Shravana, Kirtana, Good. Anyone on that side?
Yeah, Sharanam, Kirtanam, Padasevanam, Pujanam, Dasyam, Atmanivedanam.
Very good. Yes, the 9 processes of devotion. And the translation is Okay, what's Shravanam?
Yes.
Hearing. Okay, Kirtanam? Kirtanam? Chanting. Yes. What kind of chanting? Harinam? Kirtan also is what we're doing right now, speaking the pastimes of the Lord. That's also Kirtan. Glorification of the Lord. Sometimes people, when they hear Kirtan, they just think it's sitting down and chanting with cartels and playing instruments, chanting Hare Krishna. But Kirtan is much more than that. Just like Prabhupada called book distribution. Remember what the term he used? Book distribution? Brihat Mridanga. Means big mridanga. So when you use a mridanga, it's for kirtan. So Brihat Mridanga is book distribution. The book distribution is kirtan. But it's Brihat because you can spread it all over the world. It can spread all over the world. Just like devotees will go to the airports, distribute books, and they give it to one person, and the person can fly anywhere in the world. And this is Brihat Mridanga. Because the kirtan is the distribution of Krishna Katha. Whether when you're reading, you're Shravanam. When you're speaking, you're Kirtanam. Bhakti Siddhanta, he started printing presses. He called the printing presses Brihadananda. But book distribution is a direct result of a direct connection to that. And he had the printing press. In one of the temples, he had a printing press, and all day it was going, making this noise. And people would come in to take darshan, and they'd say, this noise is very disturbing. And Bhaktisiddhanta said, this is the sound of kirtan. Smarnam. Pada Sevanam. Sevanam, seva, yes, serving lotus feet. Sevanam, Archanam. Deity worship. Vandanam. Prayers, offering prayers. Sakyam. Becoming a friend of Krishna. Atma Nivedanam. Who could give an example of surrendering everything? Give us an example of a devotee that surrendered everything. Who? Sudam?
His friend.
I think he's closer to being a friend. Yeah. How about Bali Maharaj?
Holy Maharaj. That's the same.
Who attains perfection by Shravanam, hearing? Parikshit Maharaj.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Okay, so if he attained perfection by Shravanam, who attained perfection by Kirtanam? Shukadeva Goswami? Right, Shukadeva Goswami? Remembering, that's a tough one. Actually, it's not so tough. It comes from the 7th canto. I'll give you a hint. Always remember the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj, yes. Serving the lotus feet. Pada Sevanam. Lord, the goddess of fortune. Yes. Archana, this is a tough one. That one, Fritu Maharaj. Offering prayers. Oh, I don't remember that one, so you have to tell me. Becoming Krishna's friend? Sudama, yes, and Arjuna, yes. And surrendering everything we already did. So these are the 9 processes of devotional service. So we'll read the translation here. Prahlad Maharaj said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu. He included the name, but also the form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes. This is all kirtan, or hearing, and of course speaking the same of the Lord, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering the Lord one's best friend, and surrendering everything unto him. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. Generally, when we hear the term following the devotional service, or following the principles, when we hear that term, what's the first thing that we think of? Following the principles. Are you following the principles? What do we usually relate that to? Are you following the principles? Generally the 4 principles, which are? Yes. No intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. But the 9 processes of devotional service is also following the principles of devotional service. Right? 9 processes. When Prahlad Maharaj was asked by his father to do something from whatever he had learned, he considered that what he had learned from his spiritual master was the best of all teachings, whereas what he had learned about diplomacy from his material teachers, Sananda and Mark, was useless. Bhakti praneshvana bhavo dhir atir antara cha. That's from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text 42. This is the symptom of pure devotional service. A pure devotee is interested only in devotional service, not in material affairs. To execute devotional service, one should always engage in hearing and chanting about Krishna or Lord Vishnu. And the process of temple worship is called archanam. How to perform archanam will be explained herein. One should have complete faith in the words of Krishna, who says that he is a great well-wishing friend of everyone. Shridam Sarvabhutanam. A devotee considers Krishna the only friend. This is called Sakyam. Pumsarpita Vishnu. The word Pumsa means by all living entities. There's no distinctions for permitting only a man or only a brahmana to offer devotional service to the Lord. Everyone can do so, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:32. Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras Te Yanti Param Gatim. Although women, Vaishyas, and Shudras are considered less intelligent, they also can become devotees and return home back to Godhead. Of course, in Kali Yuga, Kalo Shudra Sambhava, everyone's less intelligent. In fact, in Kali Yuga, less intelligent because everybody's not even Shudra, less than Shudra. Most are Yavanas. Of course, we're not dog eaters, but then there's a term, Swapakacha, dog eaters. But there's no term for cow eater because it's even more abominable. So we shouldn't take this out of context, this Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudra, because everybody is less than Shudra. After performing sacrifices, sometimes a person engaged in fruitive activity customarily offers the results to Vishnu. But here it is said, Bhagavat Yadha, one must directly offer everything to Vishnu. This is called sannyas, not merely nyasa. A three-dandi sannyasi carries three dandas, signifying kaya, mano, vyapya, body, mind, and words. All of these should be offered to Vishnu, and then one can begin devotional service. Fruitive workers first perform some pious activities, and then formally or officially offer the results to Vishnu. The real devotee, however, first offers his surrender to Krishna with his body, mind, and words, and then uses his body, mind, and words for the service of Krishna as Krishna desires. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the following explanation in his Tatya. The word Shravanam refers to giving oral reception to the holy name and descriptions of the Lord's form, qualities, entourage, and pastimes as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar authorized scriptures. After orally receiving such messages, one should memorize these vibrations and repeat them, kirtanam. Smarta means trying to understand more and more about the Supreme Lord, and Padasevana means engaging oneself in serving the lotus feet of the Lord according to the time, place, and circumstances. Archana means worshipping Lord Vishnu as one does in the temple, and Vandana means offering respectful obeisances. Manmana bhagavat bhakto majanshni man namaskuru. Vandana means namaskuru, offering obeisances or offering prayers. Thinking oneself to be Nitya Krishna Das, everlastingly a servant of Krishna, is called Dasyam. And Sakya means being a well-wisher of Krishna. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him because everyone is continually his servant. Therefore, as a sincere friend of Krishna, one should preach this philosophy, requesting everyone to surrender unto Krishna. Atma Nivedanam. Atma Nivedanam means offering Krishna everything, including one's body, mind, intelligence, and whatever one may possess. So there's some definition of the nine, what it means to execute the nine processes of devotional service. One's sincere endeavor to perform these nine processes of devotional service is technically called bhakti. The word ada means directly. One should not be like the karmis who perform pious activities and then formally offer the results to Krishna. That is karma kanda. One should not aspire for the results of these pious activities, but should dedicate oneself fully and then act piously. In other words, one should act for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, not for the satisfaction of his own senses. That is the meaning of the word adha, directly. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karmanamitam anukulena krishnano shilanam bhakti uttama. Does anybody know what this defines, this verse? This verse is defining what is pure devotional service. Pure devotional service. One should render, there's basically 4 points of pure devotional service. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. How? Anukulena, favorably. Favorably. To Krishna, favorably. Janma, karma, anadvitam. Janma, Jnana, karma, anadvitam. Jnana, knowledge, or impersonal knowledge, speculation, and karma, activity with this expectation of the result. Those are the 4 principles and 4 points of pure devotional service. Favorable to Krishna, favorable to Krishna, free from any karmic result, and free from any speculation. That's considered pure devotional service. So one should simply satisfy Krishna without being influenced by fruitive knowledge or fruitive activity. Any questions about anything? Don't you finish? Continue? Would you like me to continue? Okay. So we see, we gave the examples how different devotees attain perfection just by following one of the principles of bhakti, one of the principles of devotional service. But generally we need a balanced diet. You can equate this with a meal. You need a balanced diet. And therefore, as Prabhupada always pointed out, you can't be like Haridas Thakur. You can't imitate. You try to follow in the footsteps, or sometimes as he puts it, follow in the footprints. But you can't imitate. You have to, follow. And if you want to try to imitate Haridas Thakur, who chanted how many names of God every day? 300,000 every day. Of course, each name is one name. So if you want to do a little mathematics, is anybody here good at mathematics? Any mathematicians? So we chant 16 names on one beat, right? And then we do that 108 times. And we do that 16 times, right? 16 times 108 times 16 is about 27,000. Is that correct? 27,000 for 16 rounds. And he does how many? 300,000. So let's round out, yeah, let's round out to 30,000. Okay, 30,000. How long does it take to chant 16 rounds? About 2.5 hours, two and a half hours. So let's round it to 3 to 30,000, so 27,000, 30,000, and do that in 2 hours, which is considerably, fast. So you multiply that by 10. 10 times 2 is 20. 20 hours, minimum 20 hours, chanting every day. We can't imitate. So do you think Haridas Thakur chanted quickly or slowly? What do you think? He probably chanted very quickly. But like every meal has some staple, right? You have to have some staple in your diet. You have to have some rice and dal, or some potatoes. You can have everything else. So you got the 9 processes of devotional service, but what is our staple? What's the staple in our diet? Chanting all the day. Yeah. Japa, that's our staple. We do that every day. We need to do that. And what happens when a hungry man, this is from the 11th canto, when a hungry man eats, 3 things happen. What happens when a hungry man eats?
Satisfied.
He gets satisfaction, yes. He gets nourishment. And he gets relief from hunger. He becomes detached from hunger. Right? In the same way, when we take a diet of Krishna consciousness, this nice plate of 9 processes of bhakti, nice balanced diet with our staple, then we get satisfaction, and we experience direct perception and detached from other things. Param tishar nirvar tante. My Sanskrit pronunciation is terrible. So is my French, for that matter, and my English. When you experience a higher taste, then automatically you pick up the lower taste. So, but a hungry man, he can't just eat one time and then it's all over, right? It's done. No, he has to eat a regular diet, and if he eats a regular diet, he maintains good health. In the same way, when we chant, or when we engage in devotional service, I mean, everybody's experienced it. You get a sense of satisfaction, and you get a sense of perception. You perceive Krishna is there, and you become less interested in other things. But it's not that you do it once and that's it. No, you continue to do it. Because you need to continue to nourish yourself, so to speak. Even when one comes to the platform of success, Krishna Prema. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's pointed out that the seed of bhakti is planted in the heart. It's like a creeper. It's planted by the spiritual master. And then we have to nurture and water the seed. And watering the seed is the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pratsevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Nivedamam, the 9 processes of devotion. And then the creeper starts to grow. And it grows, and then it goes through the universe. It comes to the 8 layers of the material universe. The 8 layers are the 8 material elements, starting with earth, then water, the grossest going to the more subtle: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And each layer, we went from the Bhagavatam, is 10 times the previous layer. So it's a very, very thick shell of the universe. And then it penetrates the shell of the universe, and then it crosses the Viraj River that separates the spiritual world from the material world, goes through the Brahma Jyoti, and it keeps growing and growing, and then it rests on the lotus feet of Krishna, take shelter of Krishna. It's a creeper. A creeper is a very good example, because you know how a creeper, in order for a creeper to grow, what does it need? It needs support. It clings onto something, holds onto something, right? So in the same way, our creeper, we need to hold on. We need some support. And what's the support? Krishna Nam, yes. Guru, spiritual master. Spiritual master. Sadhus. Sadhu Sangha, association. This helps the creeper, supports the creeper. So just like a plant, will shift to a very valuable tree that renders fruit. So when you grow the tree, you water the root. The root of our existence, of course, is the spirit, is the soul. So we nourish that. And then after the tree is fully matured and it starts to produce fruit, then you've achieved success with the tree. So then you just leave the tree and let it grow fruit, right? Wrong. You still have to control, you still have to water the tree, you still have to take care of it. Right? You still have to nurture it. So in the same way, even when you attain perfection, you still have to continue with the process. But the process is the result. Mother Yashoda, what is she doing? She's chanting the glories of Krishna. She's doing kirtan. The gopis are doing kirtan. The tower boys are doing kirtan. They're all engaged. They engage in the process and they continue. So the process is both the means and the end. One time somebody asked Prabhupada, what happens when you chant, when you chant a lot? And Prabhupada says, more chanting. Because it's the process. Of course, we may not realize that chanting is, maybe we don't even get a taste. Maybe we don't even get a taste when we, sometimes, we undergo the process of devotional service and we feel a little obligated and we're not feeling so inspired by the process. Anybody ever experienced that? Chanting or, doing some service, with regular service. We don't feel so inclined, but nonetheless we do it because we have some sense of obligation, some sense of no obligation. But then when we do it, we actually get a taste. We get something comes from it. Devotional service, Krishna consciousness, is a systematic approach. It's a systematic science. It's a science of the self. It's a science. And like any scientific experiment, if you have the proper recipe, whether it's cooking, that can be considered science, or whether it's something more complicated, like molecular biology, if you have the directions, if you have the process, and you follow and execute the process, you get the result. And the result, so in devotional service, in devotional life, it's a scientific process, and if you follow it, then you get the result. Guaranteed. Rupa Goswami points this out in the Nectar of Instruction. Third verse of the Nectar of Instruction. Utsahan Nishchayad Daitra Utsahan Nishchayad Daitra. That one who has enthusiasm, confidence, and patience, tat karma pranashanat, executes the process, sanko kyak, sato vihaheta, that giving up the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of sato, the previous acharyas. Those 6 things guarantee on success. So sometimes people say, well, I know some devotees, in fact, I know some devotees that, they claim that they're devotees, but they don't have very good character. They're rude, they don't have good character. And, yeah, we certainly were devotees, but are we actually following and making the proper attempt? Are we actually doing it properly? I used to make yogurt. I still make yogurt. But I say used to because I was making yogurt. I'd make a batch of yogurt and then I'd take the yogurt from that, put it aside, and make another batch, take another, put it aside, make another batch, using the yogurt as a culture. And for 6 months in a row, perfect yogurt every time. And then I tried making yogurt again. I stopped for a while, started trying to make yogurt again, and batch didn't work. I tried again, it didn't work. Tried again, it didn't work. So why is that? Then I realized I wasn't doing something right. So if you do something right, the result will be right. If you don't do something right, then you won't get the required result. But the beautiful thing about devotional service is that even just doing a little bit is so advantageous. One can take 2 ice cubes and rub them together and get fire. Not likely. And one can feel the hair on the back of the shell of the tortoise. Not likely. And one cannot experience happiness unless he engages in his constitutional position of devotional service. And the verse goes, you're more likely to have fire from rubbing 2 cubes of ice together. You're more likely to pet a the hair on the back of a tortoise. And those things are more likely than it is to get happiness without engaging in devotional service. Because devotional service is to nourish us. We're devotees, we're spiritual, devotional service is spiritual, it's transcendental, we're transcendental. And if we nourish ourselves, then we can feel happiness, otherwise not. With a lot of wealth, we can attain a lot of wealth. What will wealth give us? It'll give us comfort. It can give us comfort, no doubt, but comfort does not give us happiness. Wealth cannot give us happiness. It can only give us comfort. And we mistake comfort for happiness. But for one who's engaged in feeling the ecstasy of devotional service, then his comfort is not, it's irrelevant. Therefore you have like the 6 Goswamis, Vrindavan, who were coming from the most comfortable position. They were, practically governors, huge salaries, giving it all up and just wearing loincloths and sleeping under a different tree every night and just eating a little pat of butter. Because comfort is something that's relative. What's comfortable for one person may not be comfortable for another. So real comfort, of course, is the comfort of the self, the comfort of the soul. And that can only be attained by devotional service. And happiness can only be attained by devotional service. So this is the point that Prahlad is making to his father, is that devotional service is the actual objective of life, not studying politics. Prahlad, his father, had the best teachers, Amar and Sananda, the sons of Shukracharya. Prahlad is coming from a very aristocratic may not be the correct term, but from another mundane point of view, but from the most wealthiest person in the entire universe. When somebody is very wealthy and they have children, they want to make sure their children get the best education, right? It's the privileged kids. They go to the Ivy universities, generally. So Prahlad was getting the best education, but in his opinion, it was all a waste of time. Complete waste of time, because who's interested in politics? When Prabhupada first met Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada was into politics. Bhaktisiddhanta said, as soon as Prabhupada came in his presence, he was offering his obeisances. Never seen Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktisiddhanta had never seen him. And offering his obeisances, and Bhaktisiddhanta says, you look like educated young men. No, you're educated young men. You should spread Krishna consciousness to the English-speaking world. Prabhupada was shocked. And he said, he got right onto the political platform. He said, who's going to listen to your message of Mahaprabhu as long as India is under foreign rule? And Prabhupada was a political man at that time. He was a follower of Gandhi. And then Bhaktisiddhanta pointed out, he said, governments come, governments go, but the message of Lord Chaitanya is so very important, and the most important thing, therefore it cannot wait for a change of government. Prabhupada was defeated. Of course, I'm loosely paraphrasing. Prabhupada was completely defeated, and he loved it, and immediately became his disciple within his heart. And then it was 10 years later that he was formally initiated. So, in the same way, Prahlad is saying, I'm not interested in politics and sociology and all these things. And he taught his friends the same. And Krishna is telling us the same thing. Give up everything. Give up all dharma, give up all politics, give up all, and just surrender to me. And he will protect us. He'll take care of us. And the most important thing, we'll feel happy. We actually feel happy. We're not going to be happy pleasing one materialist after another, pleasing our boss at work. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want to come across as a revolutionary. I'm just repeating what Prahlad is saying. And he's a Mahajan. Does anybody know who the 12 Mahajans are?
Bhishma.
Swayambhu. Who's Swayambhu? Lord Brahma, firstborn, Swayambhu. Narada. Narada. Who's Narada? Narada Muni. Shambhu. Lord Shiva. Manu. Manu. Kapila. Kumara. Four Kumaras. Kapila. Manu. Prahlado. Janaka. Vishnu. Prahlad. Bhishma. Janaka. The father of Sita. Balir. Bali Maharaj. Vyasakir. The son of Vyasaki. Or Vyasadeva. Shukadev. Vyam. And this who is speaking the verse. Yamaraj, or the 12 Mahajans. So Prahlad is a Mahajan. Now this is what he's recommending. So I think we'll leave it there. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. I very much appreciate it. We very much appreciate it. Any questions?
Where did Prahlad Maharaj got his spiritual knowledge? Because the gurus were giving material knowledge, right? Where did he get the spiritual knowledge?
We'll save that for tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
He got it from Narada Muni. Narada Muni is glorifying Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad is his own disciple. You don't see very often the spiritual master glorifying the disciple, at least on the pages of Bhagavatam. But Prahlad was a disciple of Narada Muni, and he learned from Narada Muni when he was in the womb. Yeah. So, Prabhupada also, there's some examples of Prabhupada glorifying some of his devotees on the pages of the Bhagavatam. One that comes to mind is, anybody know? Govinda Dasi? Govinda Dasi? Govinda Dasi made a concerted effort to grow Tulsi in the West. And when she was successful, Prabhupada was very pleased. And he even mentioned that on the pages purport in the Bhagavatam. And another one, whose appearance day, his appearance day is tomorrow, and that's Jayananda Prabhu. Prabhupada considered him a pure devotee and said we should observe his appearance day like we would observe the appearance day of any acharya. So Prabhupada also, glorified his devotees, but it's rare. And Prahlad is being glorified by his guru, Narada Muni. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Radha Madhava Ki Jai, and all of you, especially, big Ki Jai. Thank you very much.